Okay.
Okay.
So I'm Cynthia, the host of the reality series, CPS the Horror Stories. I'm not an attorney or social worker, but I'm a mom whose children were kidnapped, and after 2 years of fighting, I did get my kids back. Now I have this platform to allow parents and other family members to come on and share their CPS horror stories. So, Amy, would you like to introduce yourself? Tell us where you're from and how many children are involved.
Hi, my name is Amy Brock. I'm actually a mother of 4. 3 of them are grown. The 4th one, my youngest, who just turned 14 Monday, is the only one that was taken. Like, I raised my oldest 2, and the 3rd one, her dad took her when she was 3, and he raised her. And then CPS came into my life with my youngest. I'm in North Carolina.
Whereabouts, if you don't mind.
In Hendersonville, Henderson County. It's close to Asheville.
We lived in Jacksonville.
Okay, well, I'm in Western North Carolina. Like, I'm within an hour of South Carolina or Tennessee.
Okay, got it.
So,
we were on the coast.
No, not on the coast, in the mountains.
We were.
Oh yeah. I don't think I've ever been to North Carolina's coast. I've been to Myrtle Beach in South Carolina, but not.
Myrtle Beach is beautiful, but you should go to the coast over there in North Carolina. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, I've heard that. I just, believe it or not, from where I'm at, it's actually closer to get it to Myrtle Beach.
I believe it.
Yeah, but yeah, I've wanted to check out some of the North Carolina coast, but
I have a bunch of family that lives on Lake Norman.
Okay.
So let's start. Why did CPS come into your life?
Okay. To be honest, CPS has been in my life like my whole life. Okay. I remember being 7 years old and a social worker coming and making me and my mom move out of the house, that the big, nice, warm, safe home we were in, and moved us into a little like camper trailer in a migrant farmer like trailer park beside the packing house, like out in the middle of nowhere. And we almost died, and so we left. And then we came back and they didn't bother us. And when I had my first one, I had DSS called on me a few times for various things, like saying I didn't have food or I didn't have clothes for my kids or whatever. And DSS had come, and I'd show them my kitchen and I'd show them what I had for the kids, and they'd be like, sorry, bye, and they'd go away. Well, in 2011, with my youngest and my oldest daughter and my youngest daughter were at home with me. So my son he should have been at home, but he was like pushing 17, and so he was kind of venturing out on his own, and there wasn't a whole lot I could do about it. So he wasn't really in the house, but the 2 girls were, my oldest and my youngest girls. And social worker come because there was some issues with my youngest daughter's dad. There were some addiction issues. I wasn't using, he was. He tried to kill himself in front of the girls. I got permission. He was using methamphetamine. Well, just about anything really, but preferably methamphetamine or cocaine. Those were his choices. And he was supposed to be taking medication for like mental stuff, and he used that medication to attempt suicide in front of the girls. So I'm like, I'm done. I'm not doing this. I asked my social worker if I could take my girls and move to Utah, which is where my middle daughter was, the one whose dad took her when she was 3. So she gave me permission to take the girls and go to Utah. I went out there with them. Things were going good. My youngest daughter's dad came to Utah, sought me out. He had been to rehab. He had been to the mental hospital. He was doing good. He was clean and sober. And he begged me for one last chance to be in his life and to be in our daughter's life. Well, I wanted to give her something that I had not been able to give the others, which was a home with both parents in it. I was stupid. I shouldn't have, I should have known better but I didn't know at the time that he was a narcissistic sociopath. So I gave him one last chance. Things went great for a couple years. And then all of a sudden, well, about a year and a half, and then all of a sudden he got back on drugs. Things were going horrible again. So I came home. I figured if I go back to North Carolina, things can get, I know the resources. I have family. His family's there. My family's there. I can get out of this situation. So I come back from Utah. The social worker that had given me permission to go to Utah was no longer an investigator. She was now a supervisor. Well, our name came across her desk. And so an investigation was started. Now, I even gave concession that I sort of agree. I see where they were coming from, and I agree with them totally for the first time that they took her. Because at that point, I had relapsed and started using again. I never did anything around my daughter when I was, going to be with her, when I was in the room with her, nothing like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, as crazy as it sounds, as much as I could be, I was responsible about it. It wasn't right. I shouldn't have done it. And that's why I agree that they were sort of justified in the first time that they took her, because I supposed to get away from him, and I came back and it was worse. And there was now substance use on my part, and there was domestic violence. And so I got it that they took her the first time. Well, I worked my case plan. I personally, I got immediately, first and foremost, I got sober. Okay, this part of the thing raged on for 3.5 years. Sorry, I'm trying to condense it all in. It's just so long, and I don't want to leave anything out. And I know I'm sounding confusing, and stop me at any point.
I will. Just take a breath. Take a breath.
I just want to make sure,
no. So let's take a breath.
The main parts get put in. Any questions so far?
Nope.
Okay.
One question, I guess, would be: were you using meth as well?
At that point, yeah. Well, when they took her, yeah. But immediately, as soon as they took her, I was done. And I got sober. And I mean, for the first couple years, I still failed for marijuana from time to time. Not like every test failing for marijuana, but there were a few tests that were failed for marijuana during that the first 2 of those 3 years. The third year, I was completely clean off of everything, even marijuana. There was nothing in my system that was not prescribed to me by a doctor. I didn't have any opiates in my system, even prescribed by a doctor. By the time I got her back at the little over 3 year mark, 3.5 year mark, she had been in trial home placement for a year at that point. All my drug tests passed. I was working 2 jobs, taking care of her by myself. When the judge gave me custody at the 3.5 year mark, he said that I had sole custody, and her dad didn't even have visitation unless he went to therapy and got cleared by his therapist to talk to her therapist, and then got cleared by her therapist to start visitation again, because he had missed so many visits. And it bothered her to the point that she started clawing herself. She was starting self-harming behavior, and she would dig into her arms when she got upset about something and didn't know how to deal with it.
Is it because she wanted to see her dad?
she loved her dad. She wanted to see her dad. And, you know, I was fine with him being supervised with her. I didn't feel that it was safe for him to be unsupervised with her, because he had in times past been caught selling drugs with her on his shoulders out in public when it was like his visitation time.
My kids have supervised visits with their father, and countless times he will miss a visit or reschedule or whatever. And I know the pain that you're expressing of what the children go through.
Yeah. And see, like the entire time that she was in custody, in total of 7.5 years, I missed 3 visits that were not canceled by DSS. Now, there were a lot of canceled visits on their end, because they would like, oh, she's got lice, so we're not going to do the visit this week. Or there's going to be snow, so we're not going to be, you know, schools are closed, so we're not doing a visit today. There was that happened a lot, but that was never anything that I didn't come to.
Right.
And the 3 visits that I didn't make, 2 of them were when I was on a road trip to Albuquerque, New Mexico, to pick up actually I was going to Vegas. We wound up in Albuquerque. I went to Vegas to pick up my 19-year-old daughter that was pregnant with her first son. And she had like got kicked out of her house, and she wanted to come home, and she called me and she's like, Mom, come get me. So, you know, of course I called a social worker. I'm like, we're going to have to do phone visits for the next week or 2, because I have to go and get Jessica. She's pregnant. She's in a bad way. I don't want something happening to her out there with this new baby that's fixing to come. If it, you know, she's staying in shelter when it's born. And so I went to go get her. That was 2 of the 3 visits that I missed. And another one had something to do with my dad. It was when he was real sick and dying. So that's another thing. After they took her back the second time, which was completely bogus, everything. It was like when the judge gave me custody and said that he couldn't have visitations, and I stood with that, because I'm like, I'm not losing everything that I've worked for, so you can see her anyway, and you're not even, you know, responsible about visiting with her. You're not worried about her. You talk about inappropriate things with her. You try to use her to pass notes to me. You know, he'd been called out in the visits that he did go to. He'd been called out by the supervising, you know, the visit supervisor, to not talk about this or that. Like, there was at least once every visit that he got called out. I never got called out. I got called out maybe twice in the whole time. And that was there at the end, when she's, you know, asking me questions that a 12-year-old is going, or, you know, 11, 12-year-old child is going to want to know what's going on with this. Am I coming home? Am I not coming home? What's going on?
Right.
You know, because I wasn't allowed to talk to her about anything.
Nope.
Nothing, even if she asked me questions, you know. And I was always there. I was there on time. I was there prepared with an activity, with a healthy snack. And I tried to make as much of that time as I could with her. But when they took her the second time, it was based on allegations where her dad was mad that I wouldn't let him have contact and ruin chance them taking her from me again. So he called them and had all his little friends call them with a bunch of bogus reports, saying I was using again, saying that I was doing, you know, putting her in danger. I was locking her in her bedroom. I was, you know, all this other crap. And like, she's got oppositional defiant disorder. She's got ADHD.
Yep.
And she's got PTSD, you know, at this point, she's also got severe PTSD and anxiety, you know, which after everything she's been through, I just thank God that children are more resilient than adults, because I know what a basket case I am. So I know it's only by the
But
grace of God that
sometimes I wonder, are they actually resilient?
to a point. I mean, not completely.
No.
Of course, not completely, but to a point, because they're better able to adapt to situations. Because, like, I'm telling you, I since they took her the second time, my life has been a complete and utter just struggle. After they took her again, I wound up relapsing again, because I seen that they were taking her and there was nothing, that she was gone. And so I struggled with that again. I'm doing good again. Mother's Day will actually be a year for me back in sobriety. At which point I'm looking into peer support, so that it can help me to maintain it, because life without what God gave me is just empty.
I know.
It's just pointless. And I see the reason why so many people sink down to such depths, because they've lost the only thing that matters.
Yep.
When my daughter was with me, she was AB honor roll. She read her first book at 3 years old. Now I'm talking read it by herself. Now, granted, she had it memorized, I'm sure, because it had been read to her 1,000 times, and there wasn't no more than 5 words on a page. But she opened that book, and with no help from anybody, went from the beginning to the end and read every single word. At 3.
Yep.
In kindergarten, she was reading at 5th grade level. She had a friend in 5th grade in our apartment complex, and her friend in the 5th grade needed her help with her 5th grade homework, her reading homework. My daughter was only in kindergarten. So I did that. That was before they took her away even the first time. I did that.
This is the one that you don't have custody of anymore?
Yeah.
You lost her?
Yeah.
Well, from what I heard of you accidentally saying her name, I think our daughters share the same name.
She's my angel. She's my world.
And my daughter is very smart as well.
Oh, I mean, genius. But being in where she's at, she does good to make C's and a couple B's every once in a while, and probably usually quite likely to have a D or an F, if not more. And when she was with me, it was all A's and B's. I mean, she had some behavioral issues, she had some problems, but that's because of the life that she had to live with me and her dad, and the things that had happened before they took her. But the things that she saw weren't as bad as the things that happened. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, things, as far as she knew, things were good. You know what I'm saying? The only time she ever heard or knew anything about drugs was after DSS took her. And she knew what they told her. Before that, she didn't know anything about it. All she knew was Daddy had a lot of friends. So, like I said, it wasn't something that was right. But if something's not harming her or likely to cause her harm, and when I had her home after the 3.5-year mark, he wasn't in the picture. That first 3.5 years, I took parenting classes. I took intensive outpatient substance abuse classes. I took domestic violence. I had almost a year of domestic violence therapy. the parenting class director, she says, Amy, why are you in this class? You could be teaching it. I'm like, because she knew me from when my oldest two were little. And I'm like, I know, right? But they said I got to be here, so I'm here. She's like, okay, well, you'll contribute to the group, so I'm glad that you're here. But you really shouldn't be. I'm like, I know, but they said I got to, so I'm here. And like my domestic violence therapist, he was like, Amy, not that I mind working with you. You're great. I love talking to you. He said, but I don't know what good I'm doing you. He said, could you come in and you tell me what your problem is? You tell me what you're going to do to try to resolve it. And if that don't work, you usually give me another, if that don't think that'll work, you usually give me another option. So all I can do is say, good job and have a nice day. There's nothing I really feel I can contribute to you. How long do I have to do this? I'm like, as long as DSS says I have to do it. I did substance use classes for like 2 years, and it didn't matter. Nothing mattered. Because I wasn't able, at the end of it, when they terminated my rights, they said because I wasn't able to consistently provide clean drug screens. And that was their sole reason for terminating my rights. And the thing about it was, when she was home, I wasn't using drugs, other than right before they took her the first time. Right before they took her the first time, I'd been using drugs with her. She still lived at home. But like after they took her, the only failed drug screens I had, she was not in my custody. You know what I'm saying? She was not with me. So, and now she's been adopted by the foster family that's had her for just about the whole time. Open adoption's
did they
not.
let you have any communication with her or no?
Well, in North Carolina, open adoption is not legal. Like, they don't have open adoption to where court can order any kind of visitation or whatever. But it's left up to the foster / adopted parent. Well, I was always told that she'd never take her out of my life. She'd never, stop me from being a part of her life or having anything to do with her. But for the first year after my rights were terminated, she would allow me and her dad, now who by prior court order wasn't supposed to have visitation without his, all this therapy stuff going on, would allow both of us to see her for an hour at some place like Jack in the Box or Chick-fil-A or McDonald's, usually that first one. But for like an hour early on a Saturday morning, doing anything she could to make it inconvenient, knowing that we don't get along. And, part of why she got taken the second time was because he, quote, would rather see her grow up in DSS custody or in the state system than with me, because I wouldn't jeopardize what I had worked for him. And partially because, to be honest, the foster family wanted to adopt her. That's just straight how I feel about it. They wanted to keep her. They didn't think that I was going to get her back. And so, things were put into motion to make sure that I lost her again. Like there was even a false charge that was filed on me. Like, after they took her, right before they took her the second time, I had sent my daughter for school had ended and I was getting evicted from the house I was in. Well, I didn't have another house to move into yet, and I didn't want to go to my mom's, which was out in the middle of nowhere with no jobs around. So I let my daughter go and stay with my cousin was going to spend the first couple weeks of summer with her at the lake with her daughters that were the same age, you know, and that was how she was how I'd been able to juggle working 2 jobs and being a single mom. Was we would swap off days with our girls. Her girls would come and stay with me while she, you know, went to work or did her thing, and my girl would come and stay with her and hers while I was working, you know, 2 days here, 2 days there. And they actually didn't take her from my custody. They took her from her. But anyways, I was working for a cab company, and I'd fallen asleep at a park. So I'm trying to make sure my timeline is straight in my head, because there's a lot of details that haven't been spoken, and I don't want you to like get confused, and my anxiety's like super high because
I understand.
all this has been bottled up for like 8 years. You know, I've been dealing with this ever increasing volcano just ready to erupt. And no, I wasn't perfect, and yes, I made mistakes, but I was always a good mom, and I always had best interest of my kid you know, in mind. And when she was with me, I did what I was supposed to do. Really raw, because Monday was her 14th birthday, and I didn't get to see her or talk to her. All I got was a coached answer to her adopted mom saying, "You don't want to talk to your mom, do you? Or do you?" And she says, "No." And I'm like, well, I wouldn't want to talk to me either if I got in trouble every time I talked to me, because that was her punishment. She'd let me talk to her, you know, like I said, that first year, she'd let me talk to her. We had a Sunday phone call and a once a month visit, in-person visit. The last one was her 13th birthday. 2 months after that, she cut off phone contact. So it's been 10 months with no contact at all. And that 10 months, I've pretty much stayed sequestered in my house to maintain my sobriety and maintain as much sanity as I can, because I just am full of impotent rage that there's nothing I can do.
And you miss her like crazy.
I miss her.
Have you tried to file an appeal?
Well, see, that's the thing. When they filed to terminate my rights, there at the end of it, my attorney that had been my attorney for over 7 years filed to withdraw as my attorney, because supposedly my ex's attorney joined his firm. So he withdrew as my counsel. They appointed me another attorney who had all of his cases 2 counties away. Like, I was the only Henderson County case that he had. All of his other cases were in Rutherford County. So he immediately asked to withdraw. The judge said that he could not withdraw until the hearing was over. So his defense was that, why punish the child for the sins of the parent? He didn't allow me to take the stand in my own defense. I had a director from Polk County DSS that was willing to come and speak for me. I had directors from domestic violence shelters, my personal therapist, my substance use therapist, and there were like 3 of those. Mine and my daughter's family therapist, her therapist, my bishop, and my Relief Society president, and the primary president from my church. All these people were willing to come and speak on my behalf, and my attorney didn't call not one of them. Then they had social work. They called the social workers, who literally sat there and lied. And like, even though I was pointing out to my attorney their lies as they came up, and like showing him the proof that I had that they were lying as they're sitting on the stand. My attorney didn't open his mouth over it. And the way it's set up for an appeal is to where you really got to have a lawyer. You really got to, you got to be able to have contact with that lawyer, and that lawyer be in contact with the courthouse, because they have up to 60 days to file what was said in court. Like what happens in court today, they've got up to 60 days to file it at the clerk's office. Okay, you have to wait until it's filed at the clerk's office before you can file your appeal. And then you only have 30 days from the time that it was filed until the time of your appeal. Now, the thing with that is they can file it that day, or they can file it at day 13, 15, 19, 22, 48, 57, 59, any single one of those days. And if you miss it by one day, like if you don't catch it, then you miss that 30-day window. Like if you wait till day 59 to check to see if it's been filed, and it was filed at 4, then you've missed that 30-day window. And with me having an attorney, they put it in his box. They put that information into his box. Well, he was working 2 counties over and had no cases in Henderson County, so he had no reason to come and check his box. So my time for an appeal passed by. That's how, and I'm not the only one. There are so many other people in my county that have been done like that. I have family members. I have a cousin actually who has had 2 taken from North Carolina from the same county as me, and 1 taken in Florida based on the fact that the 2 in Henderson County had been taken. I know a lot of people that their cases in Henderson County have just been ridiculous, and it's all based on prejudices by social workers, and violates our constitutional rights. We have the right to raise our families, and if our children aren't in danger, then they need to leave us alone.
Yep.
And they don't.
Nope.
They don't. Even when the kids are happy and healthy and thriving.
Right.
Like my parents, I'm sure they would label my parents as alcoholics and drug addicts because they both drink beer and they both smoke pot and they didn't care who knew. But their bills were always paid on time. They had roof over their head and clothes on and mine and my sisters. Everything was taken care of. Me and my sisters were never in any danger because my mom and dad smoked a joint before they went to bed. You know what I'm saying? So, and my parents, they were the most honest people I've ever known. I mean, like, if they knew you stole, they didn't want you around them. And if they didn't want you around them, you didn't come around. You know what I'm saying? So it just really infuriates me that children that don't need to be taken
get taken.
No, life's not perfect, but think about it. How many lawyers, judges, and social workers are out there snorting cocaine and smoking methamphetamine and smoking pot and drinking alcohol, going out to the club? They're all over the place.
Yep.
But they keep their kids.
Yep. Blows my mind.
If I'm not saying that it's right. You understand what I'm saying, right? Because a lot of people misunderstand me and they're like, oh, you think it's okay. No, it's not that I think it's okay. it's that I think if you are being a responsible, loving parent, taking care of your child and their responsibilities, then I think the government needs to keep their damn noses out of it. Excuse my language. Because if your child is not in any danger and they're not being hurt, then you ain't got no right to bother us. But I know, you know, at the same time, I know that there are those that do cross that line, you know, like her dad. You know, I've never, hand on the Bible, I have never used in front of, around, or sold anything or bought anything in front of or around my children. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where he literally was caught by the law with her on his shoulders doing a drug deal. Okay. Honestly, the main reason I did drugs when I was with him was to make sure that nothing happened to her. Because if he's got these people over at all hours of the night and day, and he's not paying attention and he doesn't care, and I'm there with her, I didn't, you know, she's sleeping, yes, but I don't want somebody going in there with her while she's sleeping and I'm sleeping, I don't know nothing about it.
Right.
You know, and I know that, in, you know, justification, this is past behavior and I'm not justifying it. This is the reason, this is what it was. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yep.
I didn't feel like she would be safe if I was not alert at all times, which required a substance. I know the best thing, what I should have done was taken her and gotten away. But other than going to my mom's, which I really didn't want to go home with my tail tucked between my legs with my last kid, to be honest, you know, it's like, that's like, hey, Mom, I failed. Thereby you failed because I failed because, you know, I'm coming home at, you know, freaking 30 something, 32 old with my youngest, you know, tail tucked between my legs. And I tried to go to the DV shelter, but they wouldn't take me. And just, it all got out of hand.
I know. That's what happened with me.
And then when I got it back in hand, they just couldn't leave me alone.
Nope.
You know, they just couldn't leave me alone. And they really tried to destroy me. I mean, like, as a person, like any credibility, anything I am, they wanted to destroy it. Because if I'm not destroyed, then I might come after them and expose them for what they did. And I might be able to open up people's eyes. Because before this happened, I was one of those people that thought if DSS takes your kid, probably deserve it. You wasn't doing something right. You wasn't taking care of them. You wasn't providing for them. You were doing something wrong for them to get, you know, for them to take your kids. They're not just going to take your kids for nothing.
Right. I know.
And that's what I thought. And then all this happened with me. And I'm like, no, wait a minute. No, now I'm not saying there ain't issues, there ain't problems, but, you know, hey, let's get a problem and let's deal with it and go on and learn and get better and be better and deal with life, because that's what life is about, is learning and growing. My dad always told me, a mistake is only a mistake if you do it more than twice. He said, if you only do it once, it's a learning experience. Take from it and grow. You know, so like, let's fix the problem, not, and all they did was make it worse. You know, when you take away somebody's reason for living, I mean, I can you see my tattoo on my wrist? It's three semicolons. You know what the semicolon is for, right?
Continuation, or
yeah, like it's the suicide attempt awareness is the semicolon is the symbol for the suicide attempt awareness.
So
and I have
maybe I'm thinking of the colon then, where it.
No, the semicolon. Yeah, because the semicolon means that it continues. The sentence continues.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Like a period. That's why they use it, is because it means that the sentence continues.
Okay.
Like where there could have been a period, instead there's a semicolon and the story goes on.
Got it.
But so I have 3 of them on my wrist because I have 3 near successful attempts. And so I put those there as a daily reminder to never do it again. Because the third one was actually witnessed by my daughter. Well, not right before I did it was witnessed by my daughter, because like I was in the bathtub. This was right before they took her the first time. I was in the bathtub trying to relax, and I hear a car door, and I look out the bathroom window, and her dad had taken her and gotten into his girlfriend's car and was about to pull out. And so I climbed through the bathroom window naked, chased them probably a half mile to a mile down the road, screaming to stop, running down the road naked, chasing a car that is taken off with my daughter. And so I had gone back when I couldn't catch it, of course. And I went back and I took almost 2 like giant bottles of extra strength sleeping pills.
Wow.
And so I put these here. Huh? Yeah, I put these here to remind myself not to do that again.
Good.
Because your baby. God told me, well, the middle one is for that time I had my daughter was staying with family for the night, so her dad and I could go out, and he ditched me to go off with his friends instead. And I couldn't deal with it, and he was threatening to have her taken from me again, like he always did, which, like I said, now I know what that was. At the time I didn't know, but that's because of him. But I woke up in the hospital 3 days after taking 3 months of 6 different medications. I woke up in the hospital with the distinct, I could still hear the words ringing in my ears that I'm not done with you. You're not done. You can't come home yet. You have to go back. And I woke up to the doctor asking me how I was still alive, said I took enough medication to kill 5 grown men and a horse. And the reason I remember that so clearly is because when I woke up the third time, that from chasing my daughter, the same doctor had asked me the same question. So it was very much a reminder of God telling me that I'm not done here. And I feel like what he meant by that was all the stuff with DSS and the fact that they're so corrupt and they take our children for money, because they get an incentive when a child's taken into custody. They get an incentive when a child's been in custody for a year. They get an incentive for every year that the child's in custody. And then they get a really big bonus incentive when they adopt a child out. They don't get an incentive when they send a child home with their parent.
Yep. It's completely corrupt.
And God put families together for a reason, and
yes.
And they're ripping us apart, and he doesn't want that. And he's tired of seeing it happen. And I'm one of those people that sometimes I might need a little direction, but when I see that something oh yeah, trust me, I'm far from perfect. I just try to be a little bit better than I was yesterday. I don't want to be any better than anybody else. I just want to be a better me than I was yesterday.
Amen.
And if the rest of the world would just, you know, be a little more like that and stop trying to hurt each other and destroy each other because you might not agree with how this person lives or what this person thinks or the decisions that that person made.
Yep.
If this child, you know, there was never any abuse allegations in my case, like at all. There was not one single abuse allegation. It was pure neglect. And they didn't even really have grounds for most of what they said. And what they did have grounds for, I fixed. So they no longer had grounds for it. You know what I'm saying? Like, does 2 years of freaking drug treatment not account for anything? Solid year or more of clean drug screens not count for anything?
It does, and I'm a firm believer that when you get your life right, you deserve your kids back.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is, after I got my life right was when they took her again. You know, it was like they wanted me to go and destroy myself.
Yep, it's true.
You know, because if I destroy myself, then I can't speak out. I know I'm repeating myself right now, but it's just really how I feel.
I get it. Amy, I hate to cut you off. The reason I keep looking down, I want to apologize. I'm sure you know I have tubes in my stomach.
Oh.
I didn't know if you knew that. But
it's been a long day for you.
It has, and the one is hurting so bad.
You go take care of you, baby.
I'm in excruciating pain right now, and I'm sorry.
Oh, honey, you deal with you. I'm sorry.
No,
sorry.
don't apologize. I want to keep in touch. I want to keep in touch. And if you have more to say, we can do a part 2.
Okay.
I'm really struggling to be able to sit.
You're good, honey. You're good. You go take care of you. Okay. And thank you. And I'll talk to you later, okay?
Okay.